Mesnevi 5. The Lion and the Beasts. Now I know some of this numbering may not be the same as, the complete Mesnevi, but I mean in this book. Khalil and Dimna's book relates a charming tale from which males may a moral draw, and a female. Within a sheltered vale, four-footed game in droves were kept in tremor by a lion from its groves. So frequently had he borne victims off from thence, the vale a prison had become in every sense. A consultation held, they fair proposals state, to satisfy the lion's hunger by a rate, but on condition that he rapine lay aside, and not prolong disquiet in that valley wide. The lion gave consent, if they'd perform the part, remarking, I've a victim, been to wily art. Man persecutes me with his deadly stratagems. The snake and scorpion sting me, rancor's true emblems. But worse than any man, in venom and in spleen, the fleshly lust within me, traitors always bane. But I've grown weary. Has not Ahmed said, rely? Believers are not twice caught by the self-same lie. Their answer was, O most sagacious, knowing guide, thy caution, pray dismiss, decree of God abide. Suspicion, caution, ever is corroding ill. Put trust in providence, and God thy maw will fill. Strive not with providence, however strong thou be, lest providence should take offense and war with thee. He answered them, sure, trust providence we must. His prophets in the Lord have always placed their trust. To trust in God and yet put forth our utmost skill. The surest method is to work his holy will. The prophet plainly said to his disciple train, put trust in God and bind thy camels, shank amain. Remember the old saw, the friend of God must work. Through trust in God, neglect not ways and means, O clerk. Abashed they were not. Answer thus they promptly made. To gain aught from the poor is fraud, a trick of trade. There is no gain so good as trust placed in the Lord. What more praiseworthy than to build upon his word? How many flee this danger, falling into that? From frying pan leaps one to light in fire, right pat. Man plans stratagem, in it is caught himself. That which he took for health he finds is death itself. He locks his door when treason's lurking in his house. So Pharaoh deemed he'd danger shun ere it should rouse. How many thousand infants did he doom to death, while Moses, whom he feared, his own roof was beneath? Our eyes afflicted are with various kinds of ills, then go and make them blind by seeing God, 'tis wills. God's sight of providence is keener than men's eyes. By seeing with his sight, thou'lt find all thou wilt prize. An infant that can neither grasp nor walk as yet, takes seat upon his father's neck and runs, sweet pet. Some seasons past, he scarcely gains some strength of limb, when sorrow fastens on him sharp and ghastly grim. The hearts of men before they gain or power or wealth, decline away from duty, pleasures seek by stealth, and since by God's decree from paradise they're rent, they prisoners become to rage, lust, discontent. We are the household of that householder whose word thus spake. Creations all as children of the Lord. He that doth send the fattening rain upon the earth, and mercy too can feed his creatures from their birth. The lion thus replied, "'Tis true, but still the Lord a ladder sets before our feet to be explored. Step after step we have to mount unto the roof. The idea of compulsion's quite devoid of proof. 2 feet thou hast, then why thyself hold to be lame? 2 hands also, why maimed account thyself in name? Whenever master puts a spade in hand of slave, he has no need to speak, the act expression gave. Our hands just so are given, spades they are to us. Think out this problem well, it needs not any fuss. When thou hast laid this unction to thy soul amain, in duty's path to lay down life, thou'lt count as gain. Those symbols, indices are, whence our secrets known, responsibilities from thee withdrawn, work shown. Thou'lt surely burdened, born also, most truly art, recipient, hence accepted fully on his part. Recipient, be of God's command, content, thou'lt be, seek unto him, and to him join thyself, thou'lt see. To strive to give thanks, power provides this to perform. Allege compulsion, gratitude's ground, thou'lt deform. Thanks for thy powers, the power of thanks tenfold expands. Takes favor for compulsion, power will leave thy hands. Compulsion dost affirm, that's sleeping by the way. Go not to sleep until thou'st fairly won the day. Sleep not, compulsionist, thou man with folly rife, until thou reach the goal, the fruitful tree of life. The cool breeze there will rustle through its leaves profuse, each moment scattering fruits for food and future use. Compulsion's creed is sleep amongst the highwaymen. Unseasonable bird is mercilessly slain. If thou at God's signs carp and peak, so finding fault, though man, thou count thyself, 'tis womanlike assault. The little sense thou hadst has really taken flight. A head that has no brains is tail turned round to sight. Ungrateful men are ever cursed of God on earth, and after death are flung to hell's fire, vengeful hearth. If thou repose thy trust in God's almighty power, sow first thy seed and then await the harvest hour. The beasts a clamor raised, they would not be repressed. They who on means depend are urged by greed confessed. The millions upon millions, man and womankind, are pinched by want, they suffer need, they food scarce find. By millions and by millions since creation's day, instigate dragons, they their gaping jaws display. A crowd of would-be wise men stratagems invent, enough to upset mountains, could they give them vent. So God himself described in his most holy book their arts by which they'd tear away the hills. Just look, accept the lot decreed by providence of yore. By hunting or by toiling, none can swell his store. Device of man, his plan shall all be wrought to naught. God's dispensations, soul will stand with wisdom brought. Strive not then, man of sense, except good name to leave. Exertions of delusion, out, thou sottish knave. A simpleton one morning, rushing came in haste, where Solomon his court of justice then had placed. His cheeks were blanched, his lips were blue, effects of fright. Said Solomon to him, what ails thee? Say aright. Him answered that poor wretch, the angel Lord of death, upon me fixed just now a look that stopped my breath. Said Solomon, what wilt thou I should do for thee? He answered, that the wind may now commanded be, to carry me away forthwith to Hindustan. Perchance, by fleeing thither, save my life I can. See how mankind do shun the garb of poverty. Hence, they're a prey to greed and dire necessity. His sphere of poverty is like that man's dismay. It's Hindustan, where mark is greed and grasping's sway. So Solomon, the wind, commanded him forthwith to bear to Hindustan and land him near some frith. Another day as Solomon his court did hold, Death's angel came, the king to him the matter told. Thy wrathful look the other day upon that man has driven him home to quit for Hindustan. Didst thou in wrath survey the pious man that way, that he might wander forth a waif like sheep astray? Or was thy look intent, so dreadful to behold, his soul to separate from its corporeal fold? To him replied the angel, king of sprites and men, his fancy him misled, he'll ne'er do so again. 'Twas not in anger then that I did look on him, 'twas wonder him to see here, looking hale and prim. For God had me commanded, go this very day, and take his soul in Hindustan, his debt to pay. In wonder then I said within myself, had he 100 wings in Hindustan, he could not be, but going still by God's command to Hindustan. Him there I found, and took his soul with my own hand. So thou, good reader, understand the things of earth, 'tis God ordains reflect, 'twas written ere his birth. From whom to flee? From self, oh, that's absurd. From whom to steal? From God, worse, no word. The lion now remarked, the words you speak are true, but just consider how the prophets, saints ensue. What they have wrought hath God blessed, made to prosper still. Their joys and griefs, their sufferings, pains were by his will. Their stratagems dictated by their God were all. Who comes of gentle blood will gentle words let fall. Their traps have taken angels with the baits they placed. Their seeming slips and faults were all by wisdom traced. Exert thyself, O man, put shoulder to the wheel. The prophets and the saints to imitate in zeal. Exertion's not a struggle against providence. 'Twas providence enjoined it, made it our defense. Blasphemer may I be if ever single man bestowed in vain one effort to fulfill God's plan. Thou hast no broken bones, why bind thy limbs in splints? Have patience yet a while, then laugh, or not mere flints. It is a bad investment to seek worldly gain. Whose hope is placed in heaven never shall see pain. The stratagems employed for worldly gain are vile, but stratagems for gaining heaven are worth our while. Blessed stratagem is that which bursts a prison door. Cursed stratagem is one that spreads a dungeon floor. The world's a dungeon. We are all in prison here. Burst then thy prison gate and free thyself from fear. What is the world, unmindful of our God to be? Not gold or silver, wife or children, things we see. The wealth we hold at service of our God is blessed. The riches of the just are pure, Ahmed confessed. The water from a leak is danger to a ship. The sea beneath her keel is just what makes her skip. Great Solomon despised wealth, sway with all his heart. With countless treasures poor, he named himself best part. An empty jar will float upon a raging sea. The air that fills it will not let it sunken be. That afflatus of true poverty, man's soul will buoy. Above the troubles of the world he rides ahoy. Should all earth's boundless riches by him be possessed, the whole is viewed in his pure sight as not his best. Close then the inlet to thy heart, seal it with love, first filling it with wisdom's spirit from above. Endeavor is from God, so sickness and its balm. He vainly strives who would deny his truthful psalm. Of this complexion, many proofs the lion brought. No answer those compulsionists in dispute sought. The fox, the deer, the hare, an eka, the sly jackal, were fain to quit compulsion's cause for good and all. A treaty they concluded with the forest king. A treaty they concluded with the forest king, that he by this concession should not lose a thing. His daily ration ready always should be found, and he should have no cause to trespass on their ground. Lots they would cast among themselves from day to day. On whom the lot should fall, he'd be that lion's prey. But lo, at length the lot upon the hare did light. He found it very hard, and wailed his awful plight. The other beasts remarked, we each have had our turn, and none of us refused the agreement to confirm. By breach of faith, on us fresh infamy bring not. Begone forthwith, the lion must not be forgot. The hare replied, dear friends, a respite to me grant. A stratagem I'll plan, and cheat this grim tyrant. My wily plan shall save the souls of all alive, and safety heirloom be your children shall derive. Thus every prophet's promised to his sect, at least, salvation from the doom or hanging man and beast. They found a ready way to escape beyond the spheres. So soon as to reflect, they turned their minds from fears. Man sees another eye is but a wee thing. He knows how great a service can the eye's pupil bring. The beast in answer donkey, prate to us no more. Consider thou a hare, a beast of no great store. What talk is this? Thy betters never have used such speech. They never would have dared to think as thou dost preach. It must be thou o'erweening are our fates at hand, for otherwise pretensions such as thine can't stand. To them, as a rejoinder, Puss spoke, my dear friends. Puss spoke, my dear friends, my inspiration's God. Small means effect great ends. The wisdom God hath taught the little honey bee. You do not find possessed by lion, are by me. We see its cells arranged, with liquid sweetness filled. The portals of such art to open God hath willed. Then see the silkworm, how it's taught by God to spin, hath elephants the power to draw out threads so thin. The earthly Adam was by God taught all our names. His knowledge was the admiration of heaven's friends. That angelic choir were silenced. They knew not so much. The fiend be cursed. He'd not confess. The fact was such that fasting hermit of 600,000 years became the newborn babe's dire muzzle, source of tears, lest it should suck the milk religion's teachings give, lest it should soar on high around heaven's towers and live. The learning of external sense a muzzle lies, the milk of truth sublime denied to all its cries. But God hath planted in man's heart a precious pearl, nor seas nor skies such gem enclose within their whirl. How long a form thy talk, form worshipper, vain man, cannot thy senseless soul cast off form's deadening ban? Did human form alone suffice a man to make? Ahmed and Abu Jahl were one in grade and stake. A painting on a wall may show the human form, but look and see what lacks the figure to inform. 'Tis life it wants and soul, the pretty looking thing. Ask for its life, no, the portrait of a king. The heads of all earth's lions bowed down meek and low. When God, the seven sleepers, dog applauded, how? To call it dog, to charge it with defect of race, no harm can do it. God in heaven hath given it place. 'Twas not the pen prescribed the qualities of form, the omniscient, the just, 'twas made it multiform. The omniscient, the just, a spirit is all blessed. Him no place holds. He's not before, behind, east, west. He influences matter from his high abode. But heaven of heavens cannot contain the spirit's mode. That theme is endless. Let us then just turn away. Let's ask about the hair, hear what he has to say. Sell off thy donkey's ears with the price, a fresh pair buy. A donkey's ears will never understand this cry. Go to, examine well the hare's most foxy wile, the subtle stratagem that did the lion foil. Wisdom's the seal by which great Solomon did rule. The whole world's but a frame, and wisdom is its soul. Hence 'tis by wisdom's spell, as clay on potter's wheel. The seas, the hills, the plains, are made man's power to feel. The lion, tiger, leopard dread him, as does mouse. The shark, the crocodile, he follows to their house. The demon and the fairy, both constrained to flight, have hid themselves from him, are only seen by night. The human being has his foes hid every side. A prudent man by caution may in safety bide. Those hidden foes, the hideous and the fair as well, by day and night affect his heart with charm and spell. Thou enterest a river just to have a bath. A hidden thorn may pierce thy foot, bared of its swath. Thou seest it not, 'tis hid at bottom of the stream. Thou feelst it in thy foot, Thou knowest it's not a dream. Plagues, troubles, fears, and cares of various degree all spring from many sides and fix themselves in thee. Bear all with patience slowly, thou'lt experience gain. Thou'lt recognize the truth, the dark will be made plain. At length thou'lt scout the vagaries of learned men, and take unto thyself as patterned saints of kin. The beast, on second thoughts, resolved to hear puss out. Explain, said they, what 'tis thou'st have us set about. Let's hear, 'tis with the lion we shall have to do. Set forth thy plan. Let's see what stratagems in view. Deliberations, ever wisdom's truest friend. Two heads than one or better lead to safer end. The prophet spake, O ruling judge, ere thou decide, take counsel, for 'tis said, and counselors confide. The hare objects, a secret's not for every clod. Odd even is at times, and sometimes even's odd. Too closely with a mirror shouldst thou converse hold. From perjury it umbrage takes, grows dull the scold. On matters three, allow not oft thy lips to speak. First, going, gold, next, third, the path thou hast to seek. These all have sundry enemies and deadly foes, who lie in ambush each, if he thy purpose knows. If thou adieu to only one or two shouldst call, remember, two's a secret, three is none at all. If fast together thou shouldst bind birds, two or three, though quiet lie on earth, nor strive themselves to free, men hold it best to ask for counsel in wide terms. Beware and wrangle not with perverse pachyderms. The prophet covertly men's counsel used to seek. His answer he'd obtain. His purpose did not leak. He'd speak in parables and so convey his wish that foes might hear but not suspect its purport. Pish. He'd ferret out in answers all he wished to learn, and still not give an inkling of his thoughts' real turn. Enough we've said of this, now turn we to our tale. By puss the lions held, right hungry in the vale. And so it was, the hare his counsel did conceal. He would not let his comrades learn how he would deal. Some hours he now let pass before he took his leave. Then too the lion went, their honor to retrieve. He found the brute impatient, chafing at delay. From hunger's pangs, fierce howling, tearing every spray, and roaring in his rage. I knew it so would be. those vile, time-serving rascals. Thus, they worry me. They're plausible, smooth-speaking, bland, calm, mild, and still. They've cheated me, alas. Who will be cheated? Will. A too complacent prince, most foully is let in, who sees no farther than his nose, none heeds a pin. The path is smooth beneath, which lurks a deadly trap, a missives filled with compliments, all mere claptrap. Bland messages, smooth words, are but a hook or snare. Civilities, a sandbank. Life's barks, oft wrecked there. The sand from which a spring of waters seem to flow, it's rare to find. Go and seek such, where I do not know. Yes, yes. Be sure that Sans, a holy man of God, unto himself is lost, wrapped in union with his Lord. Religion's crystal waters flow from him apace. Disciples thence are edified and grow in grace. A worldling is a sandbank, void of moisture quite, on which you may make shipwreck, lose all chance of light. Seek wisdom then from wisdom's sons, the pure of mind, so mayest thou learn the way salvation's port to find. A seeker after wisdom is of wisdom font. Humanities, he shuns them. He does trash account. Still leaves a sandbank, lies spot, off wrecked there, the sand from which spring waters seem to flow. A memory replete with holy Quran's lore. A hidden tablet is its mind, his wisdom's store. If man begin as pupil to good common sense, he'll end by being teacher, mind is audience. Man's mind declares as Gabriel to Ahmed there, one step beyond due limit, leaves me ashes sere. Go forward, man of God, leave me, I know my place. To everyone's not given to see God face to face. Smooth beneath, which lurks a deadly trap, promises filled with compliments. All mere claptrap, flying messages, smooth words, and better personally. Characterism is a wisdom response, humanity, solution. Does stuff. Whoever out of sloth endeavor's path shall quit, and patience lose, compulsion's creed must needs admit. Whoever affirms compulsion brings woe on himself, until his troubles to the grave conduct the elf. The prophet said, my mission is truth, to preach to man. Much trouble will surround it during my lifespan. Compulsion's but the setting of a broken bone, or binding of a muscle torn asunder gone. Thou hast not broke thy leg in traveling God's path. Why put thy leg in splints? Cast off the idle swath. He that shall really lose a leg in God's just fight, to him Barak shall come, a chariot of light. Religion's carrier was he. Carried then he'll be. God's precepts he accepted now is he. The great king's orders he has bravely carried out. Henceforward he's a herald, shall God's judgments shout. The planets, until now, may have affected him. Above the planets now he rests and rules their trim. It forms material fine, much honor in thy sight. Doubt the truth of writ, the moonclave left and right. Renew thy faith at heart, not merely with mouth's gust. O hypocrite, who covertly dost worship lust, while lust is dominant, faith cannot be so strong. For lust's a bolt to close the door, lest faith should throng. The virgin text of God explain, not thou away. Reform thyself, deform not what the Lord both say. As suits thy lusts, thou comments makest on God's far on, vile as by thee perverted is its sense, base man. Thy case resemblance has with one silly fly, who once upon a time himself thought very high. Intoxicated was he, though he'd sipped no wine. Like some beam's mote, he saw himself most gaily shine. He'd heard of noble falcons, scorning lure and cage, and straightway dubbed himself the phoenix of the age. Our fly on scrap of straw and pull from donkey's ease, had poised himself as though a sailor on the seas, then cried, lo, I've called forth a sea and ship at will. Long since I've had a notion, pleasure's cup to fill. Behold a sea and ship, of which a captain am, imbued with naval science, bold as any ram. Imagination thus had conjured up a sea. To him it boundless seemed, dwarfing credulity. Compared with him, it was a truly boundless pool. When people see with their own eyes, call them not fool. His universe was measured by his power of sight. To such an eye as pool a sea was, he was right. A false interpreter of scripture is such fly. His fancy is the urine pool on which straws fly. It flies in fancy, thus explain the things they see. By fortune's freaks in turn, a phoenix each may be. He's less than fly, of whom this tale example lends. His soul, unworthy, is even of the frame it tends. Just like the hare, could lion undertake fight? How should his soul remain in his poor carcass slight? The lion growled in tones of anger and of rage. My ear it was, bewrayed me, war my foes did wage. Compulsionists, false wiles, placed bandage on my eyes. Their wooden swords it was that stung my skin like flies. Henceforward I'll not list to such cajoleries of elves and demons in the wilderness. Mere cries, terror, rend them. O my heart, pay no regard to them. Strip off their skins, there is not beneath. Mere stratagem. When words deceitful are employed as raps for guile, their bubbles on the water only last a while. Such words are merely shell, the intent their kernel is, our colored portraiture of man, no life is his. A shell may often cover kernel of foul smell. A kernel sound can well afford to lose its shell. If mind be pen, if page be water, in thy hands, be not surprised when all that's written quick disbands. On water 'tis to write, to expect good faith from bale. Regret must follow, shrug your shoulders, what avail? Man with desires is oft puffed up and wishes vain. Put out desire, you'll find Jehovah's endless reign. His messages are peace and sweet, the pious soul. For he alone's eternal, free from change and whole. Men's prayers for kings and princes change full oft in tone. The prayers of saints and prophets call on God alone. The existence of God, earth's sovereigns, empty pomp and pride, the glories of a prophet in his God abide. The names of kings on coins are used a little while. The name of Ahmed there is ever seen to smile. The name of Ahmed covers all the prophets still, as 100 when 'tis said, 90 includes as well. Reflections such as these would never have an end. So turn we through our hair and lion's tail to wend. The hare but slowly towards the lion took his way. Whiles in his brain he hatched, waited what he had to say. Procrastination served him his designs to fill. Its secrets one or two, the royal mind to still. How many worlds there are that hang on wisdom's worth. How vast an ocean wisdom compasses the earth. A shoreless ocean is the subtle mind of man. A fearless diver sounds its depths, as who else can? Our bodies drift about in mind-strong eddies still, like basins on the water, at the stream's sole will. Until they fill, they float like bowls on ocean's brink. And, like the bowls when full, they cannot choose but sink. The wind's invisible, a world without we see. Our bodies are the waves, are drops of that vast sea. Whatever means our bodies seek to grasp anon, a billow drives it far, no sooner seen than gone, until our hearts perceive the giver of all good, the swiftly flying bolt shot far from o'er the flood. They hold their coursers to be lost, and out despite, they push their roadsters hastily as thoughts invite. They hold their courses to be lost, and all the while, like noble courser, roadsters borne them many a mile. And now begin to wail, stressed and axe the way. They knock at every door they see, they beg, they pray. The stealer of our courser was a little child. What horse is this, my master? Seems it not too wild? Oh yes, a horse it is, but not the horse you want. Come to your senses, man. To some one else go chant. The soul is void of patency and fellowship. Thou like a wine jar, full within, hast parched lip. How shouldst thou ever distinguish red from green or brown, when these are all the colors unto thee well known? And when thy mind is dazed by colors magic round, all colors lost in one bright light diffused around, those colors too all vanish from our view By night, we learn from this that colors only seen through light. The sense of color sings not from light distinct. So too, the sudden rainbow of our mind's instinct. From sunlight and the like, all outer colors rise. The inward tints that mark our minds from God's sunrise. The light that lights the eyes, the light that's in the heart. Eyes' light is but derived from what illumines that part. The light that lights the hearts, the light that comes of God, which lies beyond the reach of sense and reason, Claude. By night we have no light, no color can we see. This light we learn by darkness, its converse, agree. A seeing of the light, perception of its tints, and these distinguish are through darkness's gloomy hints. Our griefs and sorrows were by God first introduced. That joy to sense apparent thence should be reduced. Occult things thus, by converse, grow apparent. All since God has no converse, apparent he can't fall. Sight first saw light, and then the colors saw. From converse stands forth as frank from Negro. By converse of the light, distinguish be the light. The converse, 'tis that converse shows unto our sight. The light of God no converse has in beings found. By converse, then man has not its distinction found. Our eyes cannot distinguish God decidedly, though he distinguished Moses and the mount from thee. Form and ideal, gnat and lion, word and sense, sound of the voice and thought, learnst thou by events. The word and sounds take rise from exercise of thought. The sea of thoughts is where of this thou knowest not. Words as thou seest rise as waves upon the sea. A sea of thought thou knowest great, immense to be. The waves of thought arise by breath of knowledge raised. They take the forms of words of sounds which ear has seized. Through words have forms arisen and passed away again, as waves still lose themselves beneath the ocean's main. From realms of formlessness, existence doth take form, and fades again therein. To him we must return. Each moment then for thee death and return await. As Ahmed hath declared, life's transitory wait. Thoughts, faults are shot by God into the air like dust. Whose thoughts can reach to God through densest air of lust? The world's renewed each moment, though we still remain in ignorance that permanence can change, sustain. Life, like a river, ceaselessly is still renewed, and apes persistency informs by change subdued. Through fleetness, it puts on continuity's shape, like squib when 'tis revolted, it is revolved in dark by boy with tape. A flash of flame through motion's necessary speed appears unto our eyes a fire of size indeed. Its length and its extension through quickness of fact appear to be Effects of God's creative act. 1065. I don't know why it says that. A student of this mystery, a doctor of great skill, is our Husamuddin. His praises books will fill. The lion, now enraged with hunger's gnawing pain, perceived the hare was coming, bounding o'er the plain. All carelessly in confidence, he frisking came. The lion all the while growled, gnashed his teeth from shame. No consciousness of fault was visible, no fear, but confidence, sure sign his conscience, he felt clear. When he'd reached hearing range, the lion him addressed in tones of wrath, thou demon insolent, possessed. No, I'm a lion. Elephants, my prey I make. The tiger's spotted parts by me are caused to quake. A petty hare. Am not I slighted thus to be? Or see my just dominion spurned by likes of thee? Cast off the assumed from innocence. Awake fact. Thou heardest the lion's roar. Forget not thus the pact. The hare replied, Gramercy, hear my poor excuse. Let me explain your majesty, whenever refuse. The lion now, excuse, thou basest of the base. Is this the time to pay thy court a pretty case? Unseasonably, crowing cock, art thou reprieved? Excuse from simpleton can never be received. A simpleton's excuse is worse than was his fault. Excuse of ignorance were science to assault. Excuse from thee, thou hare, were quite devoid of sense. Take thou me not for hare. With me strive not defense. The hare to him, O prince, have pity on the weak. Lend ear unto the tales of them who justice seek. Think offering, let it be for thy august estate. Poor supplicant like me, thou not drive from thy gate. Each river like thy boon stream A through all canals. Each flower that decks thy hair in price, rich pearls excel. The sea is not dried up by yielding showers of rain. Thy ease will not decrease by lessening of my pain. The lion then, my clemency I show to those who've it deserved. 'Tis stature rules the length of clothes. The hare give ear, should I of grace unworthy prove. I'm at thy feet, my life is thine, I cannot move. At morning's early hour, I set out for thy court. Companion had I with me, true the way is short. That second hare I speak of, food was for thy maw, by lot selected, as the pact lays down the law. Upon the road, a lion on us onslaught made. The savage, strange invader rendered us afraid. I remonstrated with him, told him our intent, said we were coming here. By treaty were we sent. He answered, Prate not to me. Treaty such as this no value has. I'm king, he a usurper is. Thy paltry king and thee I'll quickly rend in two, if thou and thy companion will not with me go. I craved of him permission, him to leave a while, till I could come and tell thee of his claim and guile. He granted leave, but kept my fellow as a pledge, saying otherwise he'd kill me as his privilege. We strove to coax and pacify the sturdy brute. 'Twas no avail, my mate he'd keep, me he'd depute. My comrade 3 times was in bulk more full than I, more plump, more sleek, more toothful, dare I tell a lie. Henceforward through that lion, who can come this way? The case is so, I've told thee truly all my say. From hence forevermore, thy rations lost, forsooth. The truth I speak to thee unpleasant oft is truth. Wouldst thou my ration have? Arise and clear the way. Come on, I'll guide. Let's see then, who shall win the day? The lion now in God's name come, where is the beast? Go now before, if thou speak truth, take heed at least. I'll treat him as he merits, and 100 such. But should this prove a lie, thou'lt rue it very much. The hare set out in front, so acting as a guide, that he might lead the lion, as he should decide. A well there was not far off, which the hare had seen. This pit he destined for the lion's last death scene. They journeyed thus, the two, towards the well in haste. The scheming, plodding hares fell stratagem to taste. A stream of water freely bears the chaff away, but how it undermines a mountain's hard to say. All single-handed, Moses, Red Sea at command, can drown pursuing Pharaoh's vast ungodly band. A gnat, by God's behest, a Nimrod may annul. Its feeble wings may burst the sutures of his skull. The doom of him who acts on what a foe adjusts is like the end of one, his envier who trusts. The punishment of Pharaoh's listening to Haman resembles Nimrod's, who they pined upon Satan. A foe who talks in friendly guise, a false game plays. He vaunts the bait, but be thou sure a trap he lays. His proffered sugar candy poison will conceal. His seemingly kindly offices are treachery's veil. Should God ordain thy fall, thy sight will blinded be. Twixt friend and foe the difference thou'lt fail to see. Since thus it is, betimes betake thyself to prayer, fast supplicate, entreat thee, gracious God, to spare. Thus pray, O thou, to whom all secrets well are known, crush not thy trusting servant neath sore trials stone. If dog-like acts I've acted, thou, who lions formest, O let not loose upon me lions thou informest. O Lord of mercy, partner of sin all just, upon me vengeance, wreak not, or succumb I must. Cause not thy pleasant waters me to burn like fire. Let not the fiery furnace form of stream acquire. If thou me madden with the vials of dismay, thou'lt make non-entities the parts of things to play. What's madness? 'Tis a bandage to the eye of faith. A stone we see as pearl, an island as a frith. What's madness, false to judge, of every stick and straw, to seek the violet's perfume in hip and haw? One day, when Solomon, a camp, had formed a field, the birds all flocked around him, homage due to yield. They found he spake their language, all their secrets knew. With pleasure, birds of every kind about him flew. The birds with Solomon all left their twit, twit, twee, and spake a tongue articulate, as one might see. Synglottism is a link, a very potent spell. Among mere strangers, man's a captive in a cell. How many Turks and Hindus synglotties with us? How many pairs of each are strange as incubus? A synglottist is then a man's another self, but syncretism than synglottism, much closer elf. Besides, our words are signs, our written characters. From hearts there rise by hundreds mute interpreters. The birds about their secrets one by one communed, about their knowledge, sciences, and voices tuned. To pay their court to Solomon, their notes they raised, revealed their capabilities, skill of each praised. Not out of pride and vanity, excess would seem, but solely to please Solomon, gain his esteem. So slaves that seek for favor at a master's hand exert themselves to name the talents they command. But if they feel ashamed of one with them perchance, straightway they're sick, halt deaf, or something still more base. The turn then came for Hupu's setting forth his skill to say what he could do, what office he could fill. Said he, O king, when little talents all I own, I'll tell it in a few words. Succinctness is a crown. Said Solomon, let's hear it. What then is thy skill? The Hupu answered, this I perch, or I will. From my seat, I look down like a plumb line on the ground and see if hidden water under it is found. Where is it? At what depth? What are its qualities? Whence takes its rise from rock, sand, clays, varieties? O Solomon, whene'er thou sendest thy armies forth, me call to mind, my skill is surely notice worth. To him replied then Solomon, esteemed good friend, thee I will name purveyor general on land. Whene'er my troops go forth through sandy desert sent, with them thou journey, so ne'er will be water scant. The crow on hearing this with jealousy was stung. Addressing Solomon, he said, this bird a lie has sung. His insolence is great. To boast thus to the king, such falsehoods, quite disgusting. Who's heard of such a thing? Had he possessed this very wonderful insight, would he be caught and bring us barely out of sight? He cannot see those traps beneath a little mound, so caught as he is and caged, hide dungeon thence is found. Dungeon? Said Solomon, O Hupo, true is this remark. A gulp of vanity has set thee raving stark. How is it thou art so tipsy early in the day, to come and prate of things so far out of the way? Hupu then replied, great king, against poor me, for love of God, believe not all my foes' false plea. If untruth I have spoken cannot prove my tale, I cast myself before thee, kill me without fail. The crow denies the rule of providence on earth. With all his cunning, he's a miscreant from birth. Of miscreants' defects, if anyone in us exists, it's sure to spread. A plague spot cancerous, a snare man may detect in every lust of flesh. If God's decree will not he fall into its mesh. By God's decree our reason ceases clear to see. As moon when darkened all can hide the sun from me. Whoever dares deny God's ruling providence, 'tis providence decrees his blindness, want of sense. The Father of mankind, Lord nomenclator first, in every nerve possessed a vein of knowledge nursed. He knew the names of all things, right without default. From first to last his mind could hold them from revolt. Whatever name he gave, that name endured unchanged. If he said, his things active, slothful, it never ranged. He knew at first who was believer in God's word. He from the first two knew the miscreant toward his Lord. From one who knows them well of things, seek thou the fame and mystery of the symbol. God taught him the names. The name of everything with us is what it seems. With God, the name of everything, what he it deems. By Moses was his staff a simple rod proclaimed. By its creator, God, a dragon was it named. A idolater was classed by each array. God him, believer called upon creation's day. What is by man termed seed upon this transient heat, impressed by God was with the seal, father of death. In realm of nullity, that seed received a form, existence with its God, nor less nor more, a worm. Result thereof sprung forth the essence of our name, with Creator, who will be our final aim. He each one names according to his last estate, not with respect to that which is but passing fate. As soon as mind of man with light has gained its strength, it spies the soul and mysteries of every name at length. When man perceives therein the kingdom of truth's rays, he falls in adoration, worships, spends his days. That Adam's praise, whose blessed name we're proud to bear, should I recite till judgment day, would not and there decree a providence so willed with all his lore. One single prohibition known cost him right sore. He asked, was prohibition laid joy to prevent, or can by gloss evasion unto it be lent? To his mind explanation having been inferred, his appetites perplexed to taste the wheat preferred, a thorn the foot of Eden's gardener thus rent, a thief that chance perceived the garden robbed and went. Amazement o'er the gardener's himself again, he saw the thief had carried off the unguarded train. He sobbed aloud, my God, I've deeply sinned and sighed. A darkness came, and from the road I turned aside. Decree of God was thus the cloud, the sun to veil, a lion, dragon, or a mouse beneath that veil. When judgment's needed, should I not detect a snare? Not I alone am blind, my weakness others share, lest he whose steadfast feet have never gone astray, who waywardness has shunned and taught his tongue to pray. Should God's decree encompass thee with blackest night, the same decree will readily help set thee right. Should providence at times, like life to menace seem, 'tis providence that gave it can prolong its gleam. Should life's events appear to threaten every way, God can in heaven prepare a home for thee to stay. But 'tis thou tremblest at a special favor count, designed to bring thee safe to Zion's holy mount. And now we turn again from morals, they've no end, to see how fares it with our lion and his friend. They came to where the well was. Here the lion saw the hare. His pace had slackened backwards, began to draw. At this he remonstrated. What art thou about? Come forward still. The enemy we must find out. The hare replied, I have no power to move a foot. From fear I faint, I tremble, courage has ebbed out. Thou seest how pale my face, like ashes I've become, an indication sure of fear most troublesome. God hath the countenance of the mind's true index named. The adept keeps his eye on countenance enchained. A face's color telltale is like a tinkling bell. A horse's neigh of other steeds approach will tell. A sound from anything attention brings to pass. 'Tis thus we know the creak of door from bray of donkey. The prophet said, no point of character asperse. Enigma is a man until he's heard converse. The color in man's face makes known how stands the heart. Compassion take on me, my sympathy impart. Enjoyment sensual, give man a rosy face. The fame of pale-faced men reports good sense and grace. I feel within me what makes all my joints seem weak. It's borne away my color, strength, and power to speak. It casts down whomsoever it chances to attack. As tempest uproots trees, it meets upon its track. I'm subjected to that by which both men and beasts are turned to stocks and stones, to say the very least. They are but parts. That thing a universal is. It makes men's faces pale, gives ashiness where 'tis. As long as nature mournful is, are full of glee. As long as fields now verdant, naked then we see. The sun each morning rises, joying in his course. At eve sinks down again, and goes from bad to worse. The planets circulating, each within its sphere, are subject to immersion when the sun they near. The moon in splendor far up excels each tiny star. But near, its change, it dwindles almost to a hair. The very earth that in firm steadfastness doth sit, when subject to an earthquake, shakes as in a fit. How many regions in the world encroaching sands have changed from gardens into bare and sterile lands. The air that with its breezes gives new life to all, when Providence ordains, brings pestilence and thrall. Sweet waters, running stream, a very source of life. In pond confined, turned spetted, black, and poison rife. The fire so arrogant, when fed with breezes long, with one puff is extinguished by a breath too strong. The sea, now boisterous with waves and swelling tide, at times is like a mirror shrinking from land's side. The sky revolting night and day is never still. The 7 planets like it works its maker's will. Those planets too, in apogee and perigee, whatnot, auspicious and auspicious, are in several lot, thyself consider little part of universals mixed. And thou'lt divine the state of all extended fixed. Since universals are by no means free from toil, how should a petty part escape from trouble's moil? A part too, that's the pound of every opposite, of fire and air and water, adding earth its might. If sheep from wolf should flee, there's really wonder none. To see them hurt together, astonish every one. Life springs from concord of the ingredient opposites, and death results when discord their pack disunites. God's mercy hath appointed every lion's mate, and unto each wild donkey a fit associate. But since the world in trouble, prison-like offends, what wonder that's all transient, that all suffering ends. 'Twas thus the hare the lion tricked with specious lies, and added, hence the reason why I cannot rise. The lion answered, I see not to cause thy fear. Point out to me the object seems to thee so drear. The hare then, in this well thy foe takes his repose. His stronghold is this pit, where he's secure from woes. A wise man hides himself at bottom of a well, for 'tis in solitude heart's choicest raptures dwell. Seclusion's gloom is easier borne than wrongs from men. Who craves the victor's mercy, saves his life just then. The lion muttered, onward come, my arm is strong, go look at home. Is he? He'll not live long. The hare, alas, already I've endured his gaze. Take me unto thy breast, my mind is all amaze. From off thy back, most potent lord and prince, I'll look down in the well. I'll neither blink nor wince. The lion took him on his back without more fuss, so under this protection, the well went pus. They both looked down, and in the water their reflection shadowed forth a lion and a hare. The lion saw his own shape in the water shine. Another lion, thought he, with that hair on chin. His foe he fancied thus, that in the well he'd spied. The hare he set down safely, in leapt he with pride. He thus fell in the pit he had for others dug. Iniquity will visit those who drink out of her mug. Iniquity's a pit into which tyrants fall. Such is the firm conviction of our wise men all. The wickeder a man, the deeper does he sink. So justice wills, and so the wronged will doubtless think. O thou who in thy might injustice dost commit, for thy own self a pit thou diggest, our tale to wit. Thou weavest round thyself a web, as does silkworm. Thou not escape, unless to justice thou conform. Look not upon the weak as quite without a friend. Reflect, 'tis said, when God's help comes, where's then thy end? If thou'rt an elephant, in strength the weak will flee. To his protector, then the Lord's wrath shalt thou see. Whatever wrongs weak victim on his God doth call, a clamor rises from the ranks in heaven's hall. If with his blood and pride thou stain thy teeth just now, the toothache shall avenge him, dentist's victim thou. The lion saw himself reflected in the well. Through blindest rage himself from foe he could not tell, and thought his own reflection was his hated foe, and slew himself while seeking on him to work woe. So tyrant, when thou seest injustice in the world, thyself behold, those deeds thy banner have unfurled. Thine are included with them in God's just decree. Thy rage, greed, lusts, reward, most certainly thou'lt see. They are thy very self. In them thou art condemned. Thou judgest them in self-same manner. Thou contemned. In thy own acts thou seest not the sin thou workest, or otherwise thy own self foe thou'st be from first. It is thyself against whom thou makest thy attack, just as the lion took the hare upon his back. If thou sound deep to bottom of the moral well, thyself thou'st find there. Thy own acts would plainly tell. The lion at the bottom found out who was there. Let him as likeness serve of many who are here. Whoever beats out the teeth of weaker than himself commits the lion's error, springs upon himself. O thou who loath'st a mole upon thy neighbor's cheek, reflect his but an image, thy own features seek. Believers are as mirrors, each sees self in each. So said the prophet, his words to us truth may teach. Thou wearest spectacles of blue or green or red, and thence thou judgest all is tinged with that sheen. If thou wilt use a window glazed with colored glass, thou mayest expect the sun will seem of that same class. If thou'rt not mad, thou'lt know the color is thy own. Thyself call evil, henceforth others leave alone. Believers see with eye of faith the light of God. How else to them were visible all things snod? If thou examine things with hellfire in thy heart, how canst thou see distinct the good and bad apart? Seek by degrees to drown that fire in holy light. So shalt thou, sinner, soon thy weakness change for might. And do thou, Lord, asperge from mercy's cleansing stream, to change the fire of sin to light, of faith supreme. The ocean's waters are a mere drop in thy hand, the streams of mercy, fire of wrath at thy command. If thou so will, the fire a pleasant stream may be, and at thy word a lake, a fiery pit we'd see. And from these spring our devotions, supplications, prayers. 'Tis thou deliverest the victims from their slayers. Without our supplication, thou entreaty gayest the stores of thy great mercy for all men thou savest. The hare for his deliverance, jubilant, set out to join his fellows scattered in their homes about. He saw the lion prone at bottom of the well, then rapidly went back his stratagem to tell. He clapped his hands for joy at his escape from death, exuberant. as plant sprouts from the earth beneath. Its stalk and leaf breaks forth from prison underground. It rears itself apace, makes friends with the air around. The leaves burst from the stem and spread themselves broad, until by growth a tree whose grace all men applaud. It now expands in thanks for favors of the Lord. Each leaf, flower, fruit intones a hymn of praise, like bard. Thou giver of all good things, nursedst my root, and madest me become a strongly growing shoot. Our souls shut up in prison, in our frames of clay, so break forth into raptures when they're called away. They dance for very joy from love of God all-wise. When like full moon perfected, they in glory rise. Material beings thus their dance perform, and souls ask not of them the subject of their hyperboles. The hare had lodged the lion in a dungeon safe. More shame for lion was it. Hare should make him chafe. Just so a shame it is, and subject for surprise, a state in which he's left, who Becrdine would rise. Oh, he's a lion sure, at bottom of a well. His pride of flesh, the hare that cast him down the hell. His pride, the hare at large, disporting as it will, himself down in the pit. Oh, what a bitter pill. The lion slaying here now scampered to his friends, exclaiming, good news bring I, let joy know no ends. Good news, festivities bring into play. The hell's cat gone to hell, from which he came our way. Good news, that foe to all our lives and peace has had his teeth extracted through our Maker's grace. He who so many crushed with paw of tyranny, like rubbish, has been swept by death's broom clean away. A convocation now was held by all the beasts. Hilarity and joy enlivened all the breasts. About the hare as candle, they, moths like, all flocked. All their respects presented, none were found who mocked. They all declared, thou art an angel by heaven sent, angel of death, however he to lion went. Whatever thou mayst be, our souls thy sacrifice. Thou'st triumphed, for such prowess, praise will not suffice. Our God, it was endowed thee with such wondrous skill. May God be praised, deliverance is by his will. Pray tell us all about it. How was such thing done? How couldst thou compass to deceive the experienced drone? Relate in full, will comfort give to all our souls. Detail the facts. Balm will they be for bygone doles. Recount at length for awe how many tyrannies did we not suffer from him, who now stark dead lies. Quoth he, most venerable sirs, God's grace did all. What could a hare accomplish without him at call? He strength of purpose gave me, light from heaven above. That light it was that nerved me in my every move. God granted crowning grace to further cause of truth. 'Tis God also who sends vicissitudes on earth. He 'tis alternately who parties make prevail, now mere opinionists, now men of light avail. If then in turn thou know thyself find uppermost, why let hypocrisy, presumption make thee boast? Join not our great prosperity, it does not last. Heirs give not thou thyself, thou'rt but a passing guest. They whose eternal kingdom lasts beyond all times, who sing God's praise beyond the seven spheres and climes. They more endure than transient reigns of kings' short rolls. But they are never failing feeders of men's souls. If thou, the pleasers of the world, short time forego, eternal bliss may compensate the imbroglio. Know that this nether world but for a period lasts, to abandon it eternal rest to man forecasts. Give ear, forsake all mundane ease, all earthly rest. Then will thy soul enjoy heaven's cup with double zest. Cast thou the carcass vile of earthly pomp dogs, a cup of mirror surmise reject, the soul it clogs. And let's remember that Ahmed is one of the titles for Muhammad, and Hindu doesn't refer to the religion, it refers to the, that region that we typically call India. Kalila and Dimna is the Arabic version of Pilpay's fables. And there's a proverb given in Freytag's Proverbia Arabica, volume 2, page 488, our number 278, is an answer from Muhammad to a foe twice made prisoner. Okay, equivalent to tethering a horse, keep your powder dry, tie the camel. The original says, the earner is God's friend. The original has, flees the snake and meets the dragon. The words, as given in the original, the Arabic, are not in the Quran. A cock that crows at a season in the night. And we have referred to Quran 1447. Azrael, the angel of death, who takes men's souls. Solomon's related in the Quran, Surah 21:81 and 24:11, to have possessed power over the wind. In Quran, Surah 3:47 and 8:30, God is styled the best of stratagem makers. And Freytag's Proverbia doesn't have every proverb that we have related through the Mesnevi. Of course, as we've pointed out earlier, some of this is more representative. Quran Surah 2:8-15. That's if I go slowly. And 48:29, 59:8, and 73:20. In the Quran, Surah 2:8-29, the account of this is given, compare Genesis 2:19. Was Satan this very old hermit? His successful temptation was the muzzle. The original says calf, when I have said babe, meaning Adam, when first created. Instructed by God, he named all things, which the angels were unable to do, and so were silenced. The story of the dog of the sleepers is told in the Quran, Surah 18:27-21. Wait, that doesn't sound right. 21-27? Yeah, because maybe the numbers are the same. The Persian name for the hare is the donkey ear, hence the pun. The hidden tablet of God's decrees mentioned in Surah 85:22. Wow, At the extreme low tree in the highest heaven on the night of ascension, Gabriel could go no further. Muhammad went on to God's presence. The word that signifies compulsion also means reduction in a surgical sense and algebra mathematically. The Barak is the name of the angelic steed on which Muhammad mounted to heaven in his night journey, not found in the Quran. Well, it's mentioned, just not in the detail. Is there as much detail about the ascension and the 27th of Rajab on the was it the 6th or the 7th year? Anyways, the moon clave in twain as a sign of the near approach of the day of judgment. Quran Surah 54:1. Muhammad's name is put on most Muslim coins. And it's better that we say things, La ilaha illallah Muhammad or Rasulullah or whatever, than to have it on coins that are going to be handled by people that don't, religious sayings and people touching them that don't have ablutions, that don't even believe in them, getting the coins dirty and stuff like this. This is, just not something that should be done. Muhammad is held to be the supplement of all the prophets. Quran Surah 2:851 is mentioned, and more that's not mentioned in Freytag's Proverbia. And note in the author's preface in chapter 6 in the anecdotes. The commentators on Quran Surah 21:69 mention Nimrod's snap. And that was one of the things warned about in the thing is the twisting it towards one's own desires, is the elaborating it where it's not, where it's not information, making it seem like, oh, this is the official interpretation, that sort of thing. So you got to be careful. Your commentary shouldn't be self-serving, or it shouldn't be serving the mere wants of society. It should be about truth and good. Al-Quran Surah 28:5 mentions Haman with Pharaoh. He is said to have believed Satan rather than Abraham. The translator has mentioned to coin the expression syncretism, syncretist, syncretism as specimens of a whole class used in Persian. A title designating Adam, who named all things. Quran Surah 2:29. Omar. A clause that may be rendered, thou art with me. Adam in most languages has come to signify man. Quran Surah 2:33 mentions coalescent plant, which is one of the several glosses by commentators like our apple. Coalescent, okay. Surah 7:822 makes Adam confess sin with contrition together with Eve, thereby meriting God's eventual pardon. Quran Surah 90:8:1 is mentioned at, evidently the name of rival. And we have mention of sainted spiritualist, true and pious dervishes. And yeah, just be really careful with one's actions and comments and all that stuff.